Imagine knowing that by the end of the day, you will be thrown into a pit full of hungry lions. Not for doing something wrong, but for doing something right. If you enjoy powerful Bible stories like this, take a moment to like this and follow, because stories like this remind us what real faith looks like when everything is on the line. The sun had barely risen over Babylon, but something was already moving in the shadows. Not wind, not chance, a plan, a dangerous one. Daniel didn't know it yet, but this would be the day his faith would be tested like never before. He had lived in Babylon for many years. He had seen kings rise and fall. He had survived exile, pressure, and temptation. And through it all, one thing never changed: his loyalty to God. That was the problem. You see, Daniel wasn't just another man in the kingdom. He was different. He was trusted, respected, even loved by the king himself. King Darius had placed Daniel above almost everyone else. Out of all the officials in the land, Daniel stood out. Not because he was loud, not because he fought for attention, but because everything he did was right. He was honest. He was disciplined. And there was something about him, something people couldn't explain, a spirit of excellence. And that made others jealous. Very jealous. The other leaders watched him closely. They searched for mistakes. They looked for any reason to bring him down. But they found nothing. No corruption. No lies. No weakness. It frustrated them. Until one of them had an idea. If we can't find anything wrong with Daniel, they said, then we must use his faith against him. And just like that, a trap was set. They went to the king with flattering words. "O King Darius, live forever," they said, bowing low. They spoke smoothly, carefully. All the leaders have agreed that the kingdom would be stronger if you made a new law. The king listened. "What law?" he asked. They smiled. "For the next 30 days, no one should pray to any god or man except you, O king. Anyone who disobeys should be thrown into the lion's den." It sounded like honor. It sounded like loyalty, but it was deception. And the king didn't see it. Pleased with their words, and perhaps enjoying the idea of such devotion, King Darius agreed. He signed the law, and in that moment, everything changed. Because in Babylon, once a law was signed, it could not be undone, not even by the king himself. Word spread quickly. People whispered in the streets. "Did you hear? No prayers unless it's to the king." Some were afraid. Some didn't care. But Daniel heard, and he understood exactly what it meant. This was not just a law. It was a test, a direct attack on his relationship with God. Now, think about it. Daniel could have stopped praying for 30 days. Just 30. He could have kept his faith quiet, hidden. No one would have known. But Daniel didn't serve God only when it was safe. He served God always. So that same day, Daniel went home. The same place, the same room, the same open window facing Jerusalem. And he did what he had always done. He knelt down and prayed. Not once, not secretly, but 3 times that day, just like before. No fear, no hesitation, just faith. But someone was watching. The men who created the law were waiting. They had expected this. And when they saw Daniel praying, they didn't waste a second. They rushed back to the king. "O king," they said, trying to sound concerned, "did you not sign a law that no one should pray to any god or man except you for 30 days? The king nodded. "Yes, the law stands." They looked at each other, then delivered the blow. Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, ignores you. He still prays to his God 3 times a day. The room went silent. The king's expression changed instantly. This was not what he wanted. He cared about Daniel. He trusted him. And now, he realized the truth. This was a trap, and he had fallen into it. All day, the king tried to find a way out. He searched for loopholes. He argued. He thought. But the law could not be changed. As the sun began to set, the reality became unavoidable. Daniel had to be punished. The men stood there, watching, reminding the king. The law cannot be changed. Reluctantly, painfully, the king gave the order. Daniel was to be thrown into the lion's den. And just like that, the moment had come. The soldiers came for Daniel. But there was no struggle, no resistance, no begging. Daniel walked with them, calm, steady. as if he already knew how this would end. As they approached the den, the sound of lions could be heard from within. Low growls, heavy breathing, restless movement. These were not tame animals. These were hungry lions, and this was meant to be a death sentence. The king followed behind, his heart heavy. As Daniel stood at the edge of the den, King Darius spoke. His voice was filled with hope and fear. May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. It wasn't a command. It was a prayer. Then the stone was brought, and Daniel was lowered into the darkness. The lions moved, their eyes glowing in the dim light, the air thick with danger. The stone was rolled into place, sealing the entrance, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring. It was done. No one could open it. No one could interfere. Night fell, but peace did not come. Not for the king. Back at the palace, King Darius could not eat. He could not sleep. Music brought no comfort. Silence filled the room. He paced. He waited. He worried. Meanwhile, inside the den, Daniel was not alone. Because when faith is real, God is present. The lions were there. Yes, but something had changed. Something unseen. Something powerful. God had sent his angel, and the mouths of the lions were shut. No attack. No roar of violence. Only stillness. Daniel remained untouched, protected, at peace in a place of death. Hours passed. The night slowly faded, and as soon as the first light appeared, the king rushed to the den. He didn't wait. He didn't hesitate. He ran. When he reached the stone, his voice broke as he called out, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" There was a pause, a moment that felt like forever. Then a voice, clear, alive. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight." The king's face lit up with joy. Relief poured over him. "Take him out," he commanded immediately. The stone was removed, and Daniel was lifted out of the den. Not a scratch, not a wound, nothing, because he had trusted in God. But the story doesn't end there. The king's joy turned into justice. The men who had plotted against Daniel were brought forward, and this time there was no escape. They were thrown into the den, and before they even reached the bottom, the lions overpowered them. It was a clear message. God had defended Daniel, publicly, powerfully, and King Darius would never forget it. He made a new decree, this time not to honor himself, but to honor God. He declared that throughout the kingdom, people must respect and fear the God of Daniel. "For he is the living God," the king said, "and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His rule will never end." What began as a trap became a testimony. What was meant for death became a display of God's power. And Daniel, he continued to prosper, because faith like his does not go unnoticed. Now think about this for a moment. Daniel didn't wait for the miracle before he trusted God. He trusted God before the miracle came. He didn't change his behavior when things got dangerous. He stayed the same, consistent, faithful, bold, even when it could cost him everything. And that is where many people struggle. It's easy to have faith when things are good. But what about when standing for what is right puts you at risk? What about when doing the right thing could cost you your comfort, your reputation, even your safety? Daniel's story answers that question. Real faith doesn't depend on the outcome. It depends on who God is. Because even if the lions had attacked, God would still be God. But in this moment, God chose to show his power in a way no one could deny. And the entire kingdom saw it. So the question is, what would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet for 30 days? Would you have hidden your faith? Or would you have done exactly what Daniel did, knowing the risk? Because moments like that reveal everything. They show what we truly believe. They show who we truly trust. And maybe, just maybe, you're facing a situation right now. Not a lion's den, but something that feels just as real. Pressure, fear, a choice between doing what's easy and doing what's right. If that's you, remember Daniel. Remember that God sees, God knows, and God is able, even in the darkest places, even in the moments that feel like the end. So hold on, stay faithful, and trust Him completely. If this story moved you, take a moment to like, share, and follow for more powerful Bible stories that strengthen your faith and remind you that God is still working, even in the hardest moments.